We are about, well, 2 weeks out from taking our STAAR test. So here we go. Today I can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the missing side of a right triangle. I can use the Pythagorean theorem to tell whether a triangle is a right triangle. I can use it to find the distances between 2 points on a coordinate plane. And also we are going to go over angles and tell if two triangles are similar just by looking at their angle measures. All right, so we've got a lot to cover today, okay? So here we go. Not that one. We are on STAAR review number 5. All right. So the Pythagorean theorem, of course, is on your mathematics chart, okay? It's right down here under additional information. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? So I'm probably going to leave you a mathematics chart out. I hope you fill everything out on it, and I want you to attach it to your packet today when you turn it in. And so that everything that I've asked you to fill out so far is filled out, okay? All right, Pythagorean theorem only works with right triangles, all right? So let's get this zeroed in a little bit better. Looks like there we go. Okay, so on a right triangle, you have the two legs, and then you have the diagonal, which is also known as the hypotenuse. It doesn't matter which leg you make A, which leg you make B, but the hypotenuse is always a diagonal, and it is always C. So we've taught you to draw a right angle if there isn't one, and put an arrow over to the hypotenuse, and then it's easily identified as C. The hypotenuse is the longest side, and it is also the diagonal, and that's one of the ways we identify what they're looking for. Is if they say what is the diagonal length between distance, then we know that it is the C that we're looking for. So I'm going to simply do this one right over here. Well, actually no, I'm going to start with here where I'm finding C. So I'm going to put A equals B equals. Remember, A and B are interchangeable. This is the minimum. At least I'm going to do all the steps right now, and then I'm going to show you minimally what I want on the paper. So I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I've got 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to c squared. When I take my calculator and put 3 squared in, I get 9. 4 squared is 16, and yes, I'm showing you the long way right now, is equal to c squared. You would add what is 9 and 16 together, which would give you 25 is equal to c squared. And remember, to break apart multiplication, use division. To break apart addition, use subtraction. Well, to break apart a square, because we don't want to know what c squared is. C squared is the area off that side, okay? C is the side length, or the diagonal length of your right triangle. So we are going to take the square root. And an interesting thing, and some of you have correlated this and some of you haven't. Do you see where it says x squared? Right above it in blue is your square root. So if you're squaring something and you need to break it apart, you're going to use that symbol, square root. So you're going to hit second, square root, 25, and I get 5 is equal to c. Okay? All right, let's do another one over here. So I'm first going to find my right angle, which is right here in the corner of that triangle. Then I'm going to draw over, because that's going to tell me that C is the hypotenuse. So I've got A and B, and it looks like we're going to look for B. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to show you the long way before I show you the shortcuts. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I've got 15 squared plus B squared is equal to 18 squared. Okay, 15 squared in my calculator is 225, plus b squared is equal to 324. I need to get b by itself. So what is the inverse of positive 225? It's negative 225. So I'm going to subtract 225 from this side, which means I subtract 225 from this side of the equal sign. All right, that keeps our equations balanced. And so I'm going to have b squared is equal to 324, subtract 225. I do that in my calculator. I get that as 99. I take the square root of b squared, and I get b, and the square root of 99 is 9.9, or second square root 99. I'm just going to round that number to 9.9 for now, okay? All right, here is one in a word problem, and I am going to take a shortcut, and this is the only shortcut you are allowed to take. So, a board was nailed diagonally across the end of a square platform. So here's your diagonal board used at a construction site. Which of the following is closest to the length of this board that is on the diagonal? So obviously, the diagonal is going to be your C. So I'm identifying my parts, A and B. You need to write the formula. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Next, you need to put the parts in. So A is 16 squared plus B is also 16 squared is equal to C squared. Now this step I will let you do all at once. 16 squared plus 16 squared, and you get 512 is equal to C squared. You have to write that step down. I'm telling you, you don't do this, I'm not giving you credit. So then you've got to take the square root and take second square root 512, and you end up with C is equal to 22.627 blah blah blah, and it says which is the closest. So the closest is going to be D at 23. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Here we go again. Stanley started at point P and drove 13 miles south to point Q. Then he drives east to point R. This is a typical STAAR question. Where he is 58 miles from his starting point. So here to here is 58 miles. Which best represents the distance from point R to point Q? So if I'm looking at this, am I needing A, B, or C? You're right. Obviously, this is A. This is my hypotenuse C, so it doesn't matter. A or B is what I'm looking for. Write your formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Then I'm going to write A is 13 squared plus B squared is equal to 58 squared. Next thing I'm going to do, and yes, I don't mind if you do this, subtract 13 squared from both sides. So you're cutting out a step here by just writing subtract 13 squared. In my calculator, I'm going to do 58 squared, subtract 13 squared, and I get 3195. Now, is that my answer? No, because that's what B squared is equal to. And a lot of times that'll be an answer choice for you. So you have to recognize, I don't want to know what B squared is, I want to know what B is. So second square root, 3195. And most of your Pythagorean theorem will be what is closest. Sometimes they'll be an open-ended and they'll want you to round it to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. So I have 56.52 it looks like. So B is equal to 56.55. And that's, oh, it's an answer choice exactly. Now, for some reason, they wanted me to round that to the nearest hundredth. Remember, we have mode, and how float gives you all the numbers. 1 is to the 10th, and 2 is to the 100th. So I could go down, and I could highlight 2, hit enter, second and quit, and if I hit enter again, it's going to round it to the nearest 100th. All right, I am going to put it back on float. So I'm going to go to mode, and I'm going to go highlight float, hit enter, hit second and quit. All right, I'm trying to get this done now. Next one, which of the following could be the side lengths of a right triangle? Okay, well, let's think about this. Remember we said a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is what we need to check out. We also know that the longest side of a right triangle is the hypotenuse, which is what? C. So I know just looking at these numbers that the biggest number is going to have to go in the C spot. So if I put 6 squared, let's do A first. 6 squared plus 5 squared is equal to 8 squared. And if I put that in my calculator, 6 squared plus 5 squared, what do I get? 61. What is 8 squared in my calculator? 64. So do they equal? No. So therefore it can't be A. Okay? Let's try B. And I would just go through it and work them all out. Now the longest side is 26, so that has to be my C. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I get 10 squared plus 24 squared is equal to 26 squared. And, you know, just looking at it, you're probably going, oh, there's no way. Well, let's test it. 10 squared plus 24 squared is equal to 676. 26 squared is equal to 676. So yes, they do equal each other. Therefore, B is the one that could be a right triangle. That is a right triangle, actually. Okay, let's flip over. All right, distance between 2 points. We're going to do 2 of those. Okay, so when you have a graph and they want the distance, or they ask you to graph and they want the distance between those points, if you notice when you connect those points, it is a diagonal, which means you have only one formula that's going to help you find a diagonal. So I am going to draw a path, okay? And I'm going to draw the path so that I end up with a right triangle, okay? I can do my little right angle on there, and that tells me that that is C, and it'll always be C. Now I can count from here to here to find the side length, okay? Because here's A, here's B for me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So A is equal to 8. Here's B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. B is equal to 12. I want to tell you, a lot of you get these wrong. You're counting slopes, so you would give me an answer of 8 over 12 and simplify it. That's not what it is, okay? So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember the word diagonal, or looking at a diagonal line is always going to be Pythagorean. 8 squared plus 12 squared is equal to C squared. I don't mind if you do 8 squared plus 12 squared in your calculator. I get 208 is equal to C squared. The last step, take the square root, and I take second square root 208, and I get 14.42 is equal to C. Okay. Let's get this last one here. It says, which of the following best describes the distance between G and H? So they want you to plot 2 points. This is typical. So remember, X is always first, Y is second. And remember that X comes before Y. So if you forget, just write X, Y down so that you'll remember. -4, you always go across first, and then you go up to 7. A lot of you want to go up first and then to 7. So that's point G. Point H is at across to 3. And then it tells you don't move up or down. Just leave it right there. So that is H. Okay? So now I'm going to connect my points. And when I connect my points, I end up with a diagonal line. And I'm telling you, a lot of you are getting these wrong still. And they're very, very simple. You just have to remember what to do. So I'm going to draw my right angle. That tells me for sure that's C. I've got to count my sides. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A is equal to 7. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. B is equal to 7. So I do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 7 squared plus 7 squared is equal to C squared. 7 squared plus 7 squared in my calculator gets me 98 is equal to c squared. Take the square root. Second square root 98. I'm telling you, you guys are sitting here thinking, I don't need to see this, I don't need to do this, I don't need to, but I'm telling you, you're still missing them on tests. So yeah, you need to see it. So I just rounded it, and it looks like it's rounded, so the closest one is going to be 9.9. Last thing we're going to talk about is angles. And we've got a lot of information on this sheet about angles, okay? But this is what I want you to know, and I'm going to show you one in your work. I want you to rely on diagonals, okay? Diagonals are when you can draw a diagonal line between two angles like I just did. You notice that they're the same, okay? And then the diagonals going the other way are the same, okay? So don't worry about anything else. They're going to give you a nice little picture, and they're going to give you several pictures, and we've had those, and I will show you one on your practice. Then here, in the sketch below, triangle ABC has an exterior angle ACD. If the measure of angle 1 is 56, so they're saying this is 56, and the measure of angle 2 is 54, what is the measure of ACD? You can solve this two different ways, okay? Remember that they're wanting this angle right here, this exterior angle. And the theorem states that you add the two non-adjacent. 3 is adjacent to this angle that's missing. So you add the two non-adjacent angles, and it equals this angle. So if I just do 56 plus 54 equals 110, there's my answer. If I have forgotten that, interior angles of a triangle equal 180. So I'd have to find angle 3. 180, subtract 56, subtract 54, and I would find out that is 70. So here's the first way to find out. This is the second way. So then I would know that angle 3 is 70. I could draw a half circle and know that 180 take away 70 is 110. So I could find my answer in any of those two ways. Okay?